And now it's with great privilege that I give another fellow Air Force person. She was a captain in the United States Air Force. She's also a pilot, and she's also the first vice commander of Post 530, Miss Kelly Knox.
Thank you, Commander Scheiper, and thank all of you for taking the time to be here today. Every year on Memorial Day, these American Legionnaires that you see lined up here in front of you, they rise well before dawn and perform a number of ceremonies throughout the community to honor their fallen comrades. Most of these ceremonies are unobserved by others, but they are sacred to these wartime veterans. One of the ceremonies is at the local cemetery up off of Coleraine Avenue, where the Legionnaires stand among the graves of our fellow veterans, raise the flag to half-staff, sound taps, and fire a 21-gun salute. As I'm standing among the gravestones each year, I'm reminded that some of these veterans actually sacrificed their lives for this country, took a bullet or a bomb blast for something that was so important to them that they were willing to die for it. Now, deliberately sacrificing one's life for anything is an amazing act. We humans are hardwired to avoid danger, not to face it head-on. So what inspired these brave men and women to act against their instincts? What was so important to them that they were willing to die for it? Many people believe they'd be willing to die for something or someone bigger than themselves. Seldom do people have to, and few volunteer to do it. That is the big question all members of the military ask themselves when they decide to serve their country. I made such a decision when I joined the military. I remember standing in front of the American flag waiting to take my oath at age 17. The reality of my decision to serve was staring me in the face. Am I willing to die for my country? I believed then, as I do now, that the United States is a great democracy that offers freedoms and rights and a way of life that are unimaginable in many other parts of the world. And that it is worth defending. And that's why I raised my hand and said, yes, I will serve, and yes, I would put my life on the line, just like every other veteran you see here today, and just like all the veterans who today lay silent in fields of stone. But as luck would have it, I was not called to pay the ultimate sacrifice like the men and women we honor today. And my military commitment has ended. I'm now an ordinary citizen like most of you, and my commitment and responsibility has changed. My question today is no longer, what am I willing to die for, but rather, what am I willing to live for? My duty now is to work as hard as I can to preserve the democracy that so many of my fellow veterans gave their very lives to defend. Citizenship in this country carries with it tremendous responsibility. Government by the people demands participation, constant vigilance, and support. In a democracy, citizens must bear the burden of responsibility for their society if they are to benefit from its protection of their rights. For democracy to succeed, citizens must be active, not passive, as the success or failure of the government is our responsibility and no one else's. The veterans we honor today gave their very lives to preserve the rights under a democracy, and we must not squander that sacrifice. It is our duty to vote, to let our elected leaders know what we want and need, to use our freedom of speech and press to voice our opinions, and to consider and respect the voices of all Americans of this great and diverse nation. Democracies need more than an occasional vote from their citizens to remain healthy. They need the steady attention, time, and commitment of every citizen. It is important to remember on this solemn occasion that in a democracy, you and I are the ones who decide what causes are worth a soldier's life. When we ask a man or woman to fight on our behalf, we must be certain that it is for a cause worth dying for. So on this Memorial Day, as you visit the grave sites of your own loved ones, take a moment to visit the grave of a veteran and say a prayer of thanks. And as you reflect on what those veterans were willing to die for, ask yourself, what am I willing to live for? Are there meaningful values and goals in my life that would meet such a test? Am I willing to take full responsibility as an American citizen, to voice my opinion, even if my opinion is an unpopular one, to hold myself and my elected leaders accountable, and to preserve this democracy for which so many veterans gave their very lives? As a way of honoring the sacrifices of the veterans who have died for this country, I challenge each of you to become even more active in fulfilling the responsibilities of citizenship that go hand in hand with the rights and benefits that these veterans died to preserve. I would like to share a poem by Korean War veteran Charles W. Johnson. We walked among the crosses where our fallen soldiers lay and listened to the bugle as taps began to play. The chaplain led a prayer, we stood with heads bowed low, and I thought of fallen comrades I've known so long ago. They came from every city across this fertile land, that we might live in freedom. They lay here neath the sand. I felt a little guilty. My sacrifice was small. I only lost a little time, but these men lost their all. Now the services are over for this Memorial Day. To the names upon these crosses, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for what you've given. No one could ask for more. May you rest with God in heaven from now through evermore. Fellow Legionnaires, fellow veterans, and friends of veterans, let us remember our fallen comrades, not just today, but long after we leave here. Their sacrifice was important. Their sacrifice was noble, and their sacrifice was permanent. May God bless them, and may God bless us and give us the strength and the wisdom to honor them by fulfilling our responsibility as citizens of this great democracy, the United States of America. Thank you.
Salute squad. Port arm. Ready. Aim. Fire. 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 Port arm. Present arm. Detail, order, arm.